I'm already hearing some rumblings out of the building about the running back that they drafted and him being, kind of just borderline lazy.
All right, welcome in. How much of a concern is there over this report about Cowboys running back Jaydon Blue being lazy? Do we believe it? And more important than that, is it really a concern if a guy that runs like this might not be the tone setter at practice? Plus, stick around for the contract update on another Cowboys rookie and why I think it's a massive key for the entire season. Micah Parsons updated his negotiation, and we have updates on Diggs and Overshown as well as they continue their recovery just 6 weeks from week 1. Let's do it.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah!
All right, yeah, buddy. I'm Gavin Dawson from 105.3 The Fan, home of the Cowboys, 2 to 7 every weekday with the G-Back Nation. And joining me, as always, is the former all-academic SEC lineman from Kentucky, Newbear Lesniewski. Happy Sunday show, buddy. How the hell are you?
All I can think about is a lazy river. I just want to be floating around on a tube right now.
Oh, let's go. I'll drink to that. And with this sweltering heat in Texas, you could get in that water 6 a.m. in the morning, dude. It is that hot. Cannot wait to get to Oxnard next week myself and to begin training camp coverage. Hey, before we get to the criticism here, can I share screen? And let me just give you some Texas Tech game. This is from 2023, New Bear. And the word lazy kind of came out of left field to me because I've just been evaluating the player, and we'll do a deep dive and tell you what the sources are saying. But, how would you describe Jaydon Blue as a player? I think this is a dog right here. Even though he's 203 pounds, he attacks 230-pound tacklers. This guy's not backing down from anything, so I was surprised to see the word lazy.
I got to go multifaceted. There's just so much to like about what this guy can do. Potential, but it's game-breaking speed. I've been calling him the burnt orange burner since he went in round 5, and he's set up to be a steal.
He is, man.
Sorry, I thought you had something to say about this in particular, but this uncut gem stuff with him is where I go with it. Where he's got all the things that you just kind of want to shape it, shift it, mold it into what you need it to be for the team. And I know we're going to get into it piece by piece, and I don't know which one I want to pick first.
Yeah, there's so much to like about him. I think the reaction is, or the topic is like, do you have to slow down on your optimism, positivity, or excitement about Jaydon Blue on film based on what we've heard over the last 48 hours? Real quick, how about Wow brought to you by our friends at Bet Online, the easiest and best way for me to get money on an online sports book in Texas. Link in description, up to $250 in free bets just for signing up through How About Wow. You want to be ready for week 1. Jump in there right now. Let me go ahead and do this. I'll put the QR code up in the top right-hand corner of our screen if you just want to scan that here over the next couple of minutes. But this brings up some real interesting questions, New Bear. Will the Cowboys coaches trust him? If they're already willing to leak to sources, will they like him? Does he have the habits that can allow him to hit his potential as well? And we're going to get to Glenn Stretch Smith here on the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Glenn, a really good member of the Cowboys media collaborative, had a show with Randy Galloway, and here he is with Marcus Mosher's show, and they segue here into talking about DeMarvion Overshown, another former Longhorn, and what Glenn is hoping Demo can do for Blue there at training camp. And got to share the screen, and here we go.
We'll see. I'm hoping he's setting the tone for his former teammate at the University of Texas, because that's really the guy I'm worried about. I'm already hearing some rumblings out of the building about the running back that they drafted and him being, kind of just borderline lazy, not in the building, doing his off-season workouts. So maybe he's saying, hey, one Longhorn to the other Longhorn, get your ass in here and let's get going a little bit, because I think that's a firm message that needs to be sent.
Okay, a lot to unpack there. A firm message that needs to be sent. Guy's a rookie, okay, and I do believe that as long as you are a rookie, I give you a pass on most stuff that can come up in your first year. And really the serious evaluation begins after you've had a chance to be exposed to what the environment is and a chance to react. Smith goes on to say, though, and we'll get to this clip here in a bit for more context, but he said that coaches will be like, hey, do you want to run this drill? And he'll say, no, my leg doesn't feel right. And then they said, okay, go with the training staff. And he said, nope, don't want to do that either. New Bear, react.
I'm sorry. I'm wondering how much we're stretching the narrative here, right? I wonder how much like this is real, how much there's really something there, and how much this is more of a motivational ploy, knowing that we're heading right into camp and knowing that this running back battle royale could be underwhelming if he's not the guy that grabs it by the horns and really takes control, because his speed is so different and it would change what they're able to do with this offense. Even if he's not a 300 plus touch guy, even if he's not the guy, being that 12 and 15 touch guy like we talked about with Kamara, with Warwick Dunn, there's volume in here. There's work to be done that this guy can just terrorize defenses. And it changes the complexion the same way GP does opposite CD, because skill sets and traits change what the defense has to plan for, changes how they have to react on Sunday. And that's where my head went first. And that's where I really kind of want to stay.
Is it a stretch? Is it a stretch that this is actually a concern? I think those things are very valid. Insiders, sources, a lot of my friends have been digging into the details behind this story over the last 48 hours. Let's start to unpack a little bit of, okay? Because, before we get to the questions and topics around it, I think it is important to establish what facts we have and like what's in my phone that's not on social and, what's on social. If I was going to put an umbrella over everything based on my understanding, researching this story, I think a lot of it comes down to being unlikable and unprofessional as a very young man, which most 22-year-olds are entering a work environment, a professional corporate environment, which basically is the NFL today. You work in the marketing world. I work in the broadcasting world. 22-year-olds are idiots. Okay. And they can be unlikable, or they don't know how much of their real personality they can show at work compared to what's for their friends on the couch. And if you don't know that and don't know what parts of your personality to let out in a work environment for whatever reason, people aren't going to like you and then start talking about you. But they don't want to just say, I don't like the guy, right? Because that would be unprofessional. So what they do is they put it on you, right? But I don't think lazy applies. I think a-hole applies, right? And I have room on my team for a lot of a-holes because a-holes get stuff done, New Bear. But, okay, so number one, this isn't totally made up, though. The guy does have a reputation for being a jerk to coaches, for not wanting to work, for being confrontational to the point that maybe a coach or two has felt like, wow, he's really up in my face like he wants to go. What the hell is going on here with this player? Being a player that feels like the rules don't apply to him might apply to Jaydon Blue. So, I think
425.
What's that?
425.
425. Thank you. I'll drink to that. Longhorns fans were frustrated why he was not getting more touches in college. How could a guy this talented? The coaching staff didn't trust him or like him. These things are real. So I do believe in the last 48 hours, there has been a rush from a lot of bloggers, content creators, even some, broadcasters to throw this out, particularly because Marcus Mosher isn't one of the most well-liked members of the blogging and streaming community. Like, he's confrontational on social. I think he does a nice job with an entertaining show, but a lot of the media doesn't like him, and maybe some players don't like him as well. But to add further context, New Bear, before you hit me with the 427 again, which, by the way, is all you need to say here. This is a situation where in high school and college, mom is overly involved. Have fun with that. And dad,
no father figure, right? No, yeah. No male authority figure.
Yeah, and that's common, in life, in sports. Dad's not around sometimes, right? And there's plenty of players, plenty of professionals that overcome that kind of thing. But if you pair that with mom's a live one, there's no balancing right? It's okay for one parent to be crazy sports parent if other parent is there, right? If you're going,
that's where I'm trending with my wife. It's not going to be me pushing my boy into SEC quarterback land. It's going to be mom. She's already preparing him.
I love it. I love it. So, in the draft process, it was reported that he was a character flag for some teams.
Well, I mean, when you talk about going back to high school and the house he grew up in and the situation, the environment, the whole deal, I mean, we're talking about a kid, he opted out of his senior year. And people are using that as a red flag and talking about this as like a building block toward the character stuff right alongside what you're talking about, his maternal influence being a live wire. Is that a red flag or is that a maturity thing? Is it not a way? Can you not spin that and say that a 17-year-old kid said, I'm actually not going to play my senior year of high school football because I'm going to get my books lined up, I'm going to get my body lined up, and I'm going to go ball out at UT? I mean,
what Cooper Flagg did.
Exactly. And the thing that's challenging for me about this is just I have a lot of bad blood, not just coaches, bosses. And typically, on the male side, like what you're talking about, I can remember my parents divorced when I was 2. And I can remember being in 5th grade. Mr. Marikas was the first man who pulled me aside because he kicked me out of class 3 times in the first 10 minutes because I wouldn't shut up. I can't tell you how many men in my life have done the great thing of pulling you aside and a boss that grabs you and says, hey, if I don't make you a better whatever you are, for me that's a writer, marketer, what have you, even if that's not here, then I haven't done my job at your boss. For every one of the great men who have pulled me aside and helped me and mentored me and done those things, there's 10 or more who have been pieces of shit. And I think when you get to this point where you're at UT and you come through the gauntlet that is their running back room and you're splitting carries and you're fighting for that depth. You know what? I don't think I think a lot of people that I played with would say the same thing about me, that I was a diva, that I thought rules didn't apply to me and that I took advantage of things even when I was a walk-on before I got put on money. And I don't run 4.25. I can't imagine how much of a pain in the ass I would have been if I ran 4.25.
Right. Yes. Okay. So I appreciate the honesty there. That is fantastic perspective. And I'm not going through this to pick on Jaydon Blue. I'm just going through this so the homers in the media or homer fans that just want to bury their head in the stand know this is true. Like Wanye Thomas and Jaydon Blue are on there on social with their part of it. We'll get to that in just a second. It's not made up. We go to Brian Broaddus, another former Cowboys scout. I work with him every day, 2 to 7. And he works his butt off to make sure he's got the story right, to the point that oftentimes it annoys me, but he said the player has had his share of problems. There are plenty of scouts, coaches, trainers, and teammates who will tell you that. I don't think Glenn is wrong here, but my gut is it's more of a college source than a Cowboys one. So, that's another interesting angle of the conversation.
Well, and that FTR, just to interject for 1 second, I want to make sure you're not doing to me what you did to me with Elway and Dak. I'm not saying that it's made up, right? Just so we understand.
Oh no, I'm not saying that about you at all. No, I'm saying that about people like, this fan Michael Banning here, who is, actively choosing to deny what is being objectively reported because there's a pro Cowboys bias in his mind that I want to be excited. Don't tell me. I think that's what you get a lot of when stories like this come out.
Yeah, UT, and it's not just football. They have their own network, right? I mean, they're as big as it gets. And when you talk about the politics and the dynamics that go into a university like that, you don't have to be the biggest or the best to have stuff like this be a problem on both sides. And I know personally, and without like going, tit for tat or, he said, she said, and who was right and who was wrong. I've personally been subjected to things, even go back to high school, that if you go, man, someone said this, is there truth to it? Sure. How big of a deal is it? How much does it really matter? Were you in the room? Do you know what play was called? That kind of stuff. The way we talk about PFF and what their grades truly are, right? As an example. But I've also seen guys' careers get derailed, not just damaged, but before they even have a chance to really start the way they should, based on things coaches say to their scout friend or somebody else who's a part of the draft process, an agent, whatever the case may be. It's ugly, and you've got reputations at stake. And I just think there's enough people who failed upward without the help of innuendo that I don't want to pile on a kid unless someone's willing to put a name on a source on a specific incident.
Okay, up next here on How About Wow, just more of the podcast. How much of a concern is it? Stretch was asked, how much of a concern is it that he is not in the building right now up there at the Star?
Well, a lot, I think, when they don't know you, when they don't know what your work habits are, when they see you already in OTAs, kind of limping around as if to say, boy, my hamstrings bother me a little. Hey, I stayed out late last night. I'm not real sure I want to go through this workout right now. Okay, well, if you're injured, get over there with Britt Brown. Get over there with Jim Mauer. Well, I don't know. It's not really that bad. Well, now all of a sudden you created doubt in the organization. You created doubt with the coaching staff. Hey, if we're putting you in the game on this third down, can we count on you to go block that Sam linebacker? Can we count on you to pick up this guy from a blitz standpoint? And so from accountability standpoint, when they don't know who you are and you're already jilly jackassing around, it's just the NFL. I mean, I realize college guys are getting paid, and I realize all of that, but I'm telling you, I'm just giving you right up front, I'm concerned about this pick out of the University of Texas, and I think he's got to create the doubt or eliminate the doubt that's in the room right now.
By the way, A+ there for the use of jilly jackass, and I think I'm going to have to add that to my.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of Jilly Jackass, if the direct analogy that he's using is, can you pick up this Sam linebacker on third down? If there's a Sam linebacker on third down, he better be running a rail route right by his ass. Second of all, if you're asking him to be the blitz pickup guy, then you drafted the wrong guy. That's not his skill set and what he's going to be out there for. And third of all,
you got to be good enough at that. Like, I mean, they played Zeke for about 3 or 4 years just because his pass protection was better. I mean, that's a real thing that's going to keep you off the field.
Javonte Williams can catch checkdowns too, and he can pick up blitzes. He's really good at that. What I'm saying is, like, can we dig into these kids specifically in real ways? Like, he's saying the Jilly Jackass thing was, my hamstring's a little tight, I was out late last night. Did that happen? Is he a party guy? And is he somebody who shows up hangover? Because that's actually a thing. But putting it out there like that and saying, like, if it could be this and he's like that, like, you're painting this kid in a bad light, and he might not even drink. Like, do you know? That's what I'm saying. Is, like, let's just be real about this stuff, and as opposed to the hypotheticals. Like, if you
so I mean, but this goes to the art of being an insider as well, New Bear. You know, like, you can't give all the specifics that you want. You know, I think that the player perspective is like, list everything. Well, if I do, then people are getting fired. My source will get fired if I spell this out, because it's going to be obvious with a blinking light. So you use a word like jilly jackassing around.
No.
Generally what is happening, which is you're an unprofessional jackass that's 22 years old acting like you're 16 still. That's what jilly jackassing means.
The way that he said that and framed that up, though, was that he was hurt or faking an injury and in and out of stuff. I have no problem with saying, hey, this is a guy who some days he shows up and his hamstring's a little tight. We don't know what we're going to get out of him that day. When you add to that he might be some Johnny Manziel level party guy who's showing up and he's dehydrated because he was drinking. Like,
did he say drinking in there?
Yeah, he was talking about how he was out late last night. And like,
maybe you were out late last night.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is, when you add
that's
those
the kind of questions that the team's going to ask. It's like, holy crap, why is this guy not wanting to do the drill or work out? What's going on? Are you hungover? I think those are legitimate questions to ask. Like, nobody in the NFL gets to stand there and watch practice.
100%. I will personally admit that I multiple times in my own career, high school and college, I got myself into shit just like this. Like, I'm speaking from experience where I was injured. I was actually injured. I had a real injury that I got a shot for that almost killed me, like the kid at USC. You had to sign a waiver before you took the injection. And I was out. I had a wrist injury, and I was out. And on top of that, I had an elbow injury, a shoulder, and a pec. And I'm dinged up, and I'm over there jilly jackassing around with all the other injured guys playing catch one-handed, goofing around. And my coach, he didn't even want – I got sent to the scout team. He didn't even want me in his group. Like, the shit is real. I'm not saying that it's not real. I have been a jilly jackass. But if you earn it, rake the kid over the coals. I deserved it. I paid my fine. I did my time. And then even when I came back into the group, it was still like, is he going to be serious now? Or is he willing to play through the pain? Or how serious is it? Is he going to leave early for his night class? Like, I get it. But what I'm saying is the way this thing is being played out is that like everything is on the table in every situation that you could imagine, because people are now making stuff up or adding anecdotal details with the clause of if it's this or it could be that or were you this. And I just want to know, like, if he's not strong and if he's not working hard, that's one thing. But if you're just annoyed that he's working out with his own trainer, that's a different thing. I mean, we saw that with Diggs. We've seen that with other guys. And sometimes I think you got to cut through the noise. And what I'm trying to do, because I'm the eternal optimist, as you know, is say, why would they leak this? Because it's got to be good for the kid in some way. It's got to come back around and be motivational. Why are we willing to risk the media cycle taking this thing, running with it, and blowing it out of proportion to the point where he's got to clap back in a little bit of an immature way on the socials? And I want to believe that it's because they think he can win the battle royale. And if he does, this offense goes to another level.
Yeah, I think, okay, so just philosophically, have you ever heard the expression expectations are the beginning of suffering? That's what we're looking at right here. The reason people are freaking out about this Jaydon Blue story is because they're excited that maybe he can be 2022, 2023 Tony Pollard for you.
I mean, there's guys out there putting up clips of Barry Sanders because they're the same size, and he's 0.4 of a second faster.
No, I love that angle. That's very relevant for the context of this discussion. How about just maybe one or two more clips? Here is Stretch. Can you ignore off-season and on-field? I think this kind of goes to your point. Like, none of this matters if he hangs onto the ball and gives you 1,250 yards, rushing and maybe another 500-600 receiving. I mean, I think he's got that kind of talent. But here's Stretch on that idea that all this goes away when he starts making big plays.
I don't know if it's off-field, stuff. I don't know if it's immaturity. I don't know if it's not understanding the NFL. I don't know if it's really not really understanding what your role is right now, which is as the number 3 guy. I'll flip it to the other side. The first time he tiptoes up in there and gets his nose bloody, and let's see what happens.
Sure.
Okay, so he's looking at it the other way. I don't see a tiptoeing guy though. I think that might be where I think the criticism got the best of the analysis.
Well, if we're going to talk about nose bloody, and then give me a quick digression, I love Mosher's Twitter because it's the Mike Tyson punch. 007-373-5963 is the code to go right to Mike Tyson, and he's got the Mike Tyson avatar with the training seat. He's running behind the bike in the pink outfit in the background. He's a great Twitter, great Twitter profile. Mosher claps back too. I mean, he throws big time punches on the socials. I don't want to be negative until we get to Oxnard and this kid is over in riding an exercise bike because his hamstring's tight. If that happens, then let's sound the alarm. If he's going to Oxnard and he's juiced up and he's cutting in and out of stuff, making Javonte and Miles Sanders irrelevant, this is nothing.
I've been guilty of overreacting to noise around Dez Bryant's rookie year, and Dez has done a hell of a job. Even though those first couple years were a bumpy road when it came to PR, there was a lot of stuff like this, but I think Dez is the outlier. So I'm gonna fight back with you and say I think these are red flags, and there's going to be something every 6 to 12 months with Jaydon Blue that makes you go, oh crap. And by the time he's 26, 27 years old, we're going to be saying he did not reach his potential because it didn't really click in his head. I don't think it's about being lazy. I think this is about trying to figure out life and being able to contain yourself once you feel a challenge from authority. Once you're energized in a social setting in a way that makes you feel threatened, how do you react? And I think those things, regardless of background, it's really something that's like in your DNA and in your early childhood. And I think once it's gone bad, you're talking about a complete life transformation to even have a fighting chance of unraveling that kind of stuff.
To that point, the scary thing is actually psychologically him going for 80 and a tutty on his first carry would be the worst thing for the kid if this stuff's true. Him having early success means I don't need to stretch today. Him having early success means I don't need to have my head in the playbook because just give me the ball and I'll figure it out. And one of the things about 4-2-5 guys is they've been 4-2-5 guys their whole life. You don't suddenly become a 4-2-5 guy when you're at Texas. You're at Texas because you're a 4-2-5 guy. So you're talking about, I made the joke earlier about this guy was never it at recess when they played a game of tag because no one could catch him, right? When you put on helmet and shoulder pads, and that's still true, the reason that I want to be hopeful is because he's still willing to put his face in the fan. He's willing to go attack guys. He's willing to play much bigger than his size, and he's willing to put his body on the line. And when you look at that stuff on tape and you go, why can't he hang on to the damn ball? If he's not in the grain bin, if he's not in the silly putty, if he's not on your grandpa's gripper, then there's something wrong. And if those things are happening, I honestly don't give a flying fuck about anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. It's kind of like the Tyreek Hill experience, right? It's wild. You know you can be woken up in the middle of the night, any night.
What is he up to? 10 kids by and 6 or 8 of them in the same year? And look at me. Now I'm speculating, and now I'm over, generalizing something that is a very serious thing, but it actually has facts associated with it.
Well, I mean, if he didn't run 4.25 and score all those touchdowns, or did he run 4.19 or something crazy, he would have been out of the league in a couple of years.
In a heartbeat. And that's the thing about Pickens, right? And some of these guys is part of me wants to be like, there's only so many guys, 1% of 1% run 4.25. Well, add to that with Pickens, 6'4". Add to that the 7.5 foot wingspan and all the other things that come with it. He's going to run out of rope too. And the NFL, everyone makes the joke about how it's not for long. And you go, well, I've said for 37 minutes now that I don't care if the dude can run by everybody and hang on to the ball at the same time. At the same time, there's egos involved. Male, human egos. And they do want to like you. I just think that stuff matters more on Saturday than it does on Sunday, even though the players are getting paid like Stretch was talking about, because of what you were talking about was generational trauma and the stigma and the psychology and the psychological effects that come out of that for a young man through the way he was raised, into the way he had success in spite of what he did or did not do, into this current state that he's in. And on Sunday, the generational mindset is one of that's production based, and that's it, right? This is a job. This is a business. The Cowboys are a $10+ billion entity. And when you look at the brand and everything that Jerry's been willing to put up with in the name of winning, and for 30 years, they haven't even done that. So, you're right. And that puts an added layer of pressure onto this situation. I do want to tie a bow on this and say, well, I think it's a legitimate story. He's a rookie. He's a 5th round pick. So if it busts, I mean, you kind of got what you paid for. And I hope he uses this as motivation to go crush. I hope he's like, oh, wow, maybe I could be more professional. Am I offending the coaches? I just thought I was being me. I just thought I was telling them what I was comfortable with. So hopefully this is a pivot point and fuel for Jaydon Blue to put a chip on his shoulder and silence the critics. I just had a Hard Knocks thought. What if this dude really is a problem? He's going to refuse to do the rookie show. If he's not a problem, he's going to do the coolest damn thing we've ever seen during the rookie show.
Cannot wait for it. Cannot wait for week 1 of the NFL season. And I'm stoked about the content that we have here on the back half of this show. Update on Ezeiruaku here in just a second. Parsons, Diggs, number of other things here. A reminder that How Bout Wow is brought to you by our friends at Bet Online. Okay, your number one source for all things sports betting, plus poker, plus casinos, from the NFL preseason to live in-game action. We actually have a game coming up on the 31st. You've got everything you need to turn your picks into real cash, monetize your football knowledge. And here's the deal. If you're riding with us, hit the link in the description or the show notes right now when you can sign up. I'll put the QR code up in the upper right-hand corner of the show as well again, and you'll get up to $250 in bonus bets if you sign up through How Bout Wow. Okay, if you missed it, we had Donovan Ezeiruaku news, and this is outstanding. Okay, the second-round pick out of Boston College as the dominoes started falling on the second-rounders Thursday and into Friday. I don't really know what else we can say about that particular angle of the story, New Bear, but I think this is the guy right here that our hopes for Cowboys glory rests on maybe the most, because he's an unknown that could be awesome and give you pass rush plus securing the edge. And, you know, we have a good idea of what to expect with everybody else if they're healthy. Can Donovan Ezeiruaku be a star? Absolutely. But more than that, 21 tackles for loss, missed tackle rate, microscopic. Okay, guy had 80 tackles and 42 run stops last year at Boston College. When you talk about Micah Parsons, a number of things are going to come up as far as the things he does great. But one of the things that people want to criticize is his run defense. He's in the top third amongst edges for run defense in the NFL, but people say that's not good enough. Nobody else on the Cowboys is in the top 50% for their position, right? It's bad. So they need defensive linemen that can do the Eberflus thing as far as getting to the passer and also absolutely be a menace. And he was like an elite run stopper on a run defense there during his career at Boston College, New Bear. So it's not common that you get elite pass rushers that can also stop the run. I think Ezeiruaku could be one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, he was pushing 50 TFLs, right? And I think he had 8 forced fumbles. So we start talking about game-changing
career.
Yeah, I mean, game-changing plays. It's not just hunting the quarterback. I mean, everyone wants to talk about the 16.5 sacks, right? It's what you're talking about and being the complete edge like TJ Watt. That's why he's still getting paid and resetting the market until Micah does next week, hopefully, right? The thing that's fascinating about it is Micah's technically in a contract year, and Fowler and Williams, right? They're in contract years, and Williams is coming back from a torn ACL. And there's a lot of questions, comments, and concerns both now and next. This is one of those guys who, if he takes off the way that we all hope him to, he solves problems, a lot of problems for a long time.
Yeah, and if he hits as a pass rusher and he can be like 8, 9, maybe the rare double-digit rookie rusher like Micah was. I mean, and I think Broadus had him as his 12th best player on his board.
Right.
This is a guy who could give you some of that. So you'd be talking about Micah, Ezeiruaku, and Osa, who's like a top 5 pass rushing 3-technique defensive tackle. This pass rush could be absolutely insane if any of these guys, and it's not just Ezeiruaku, any of these guys could hit.
He had more pressures than Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter's an absolute freak. Yeah, I mean, he went number 3, right? So This dude, I mean, there's not a whole lot of guys like him. I mean, Abdul Carter had a lot of friends playing on Sunday at Penn State. So as much as you want to talk about maybe Abdul Carter had less pressures because he's getting chipped or doubled and different things that the teams have to account for, every week at Boston College, it was like TJ Watt or Myles Garrett. Pre-snap, you're identifying where is that dude, right? If you do that with Abdul Carter, someone else at Penn State's going to hurt you. That's not always the case at places like BC. So for him to put up the numbers that he did both ways, hunting quarterbacks, stopping the run, and really just being a difference maker all 3 downs, says everything you need to know about this kid. And I don't think we have any questions about his work ethic.
Up next on How About Wow, where every day we talk about the Cowboys getting back to the glory days. Would you like a Trayvon Diggs update, my man?
Absolutely.
I mean, oh, by the way, you compared Jaydon Blue maybe to Trayvon Diggs. That's chip on shoulder guy. I don't know if I want chip on shoulder edgy guys, that have a problem with people. I don't know how much of this, and I don't know if I want it with guys that are this talented. If you're going to be chip on shoulder guy, I need you to be LT. Okay, but anyway,
I like it at corner though, because like they get toasted. They got to forget about that and go lock somebody up for 59 more times in a row. You've got to be a different kind of dude. At corner in particular, I don't mind it at all.
So Brandon Laurie posted this. It's an update from Trayvon Diggs on Instagram. Guess I should open it up like that and then hit play for you here. It promises the truth behind his injury on an upcoming episode of Trayvon Diggs' YouTube show there, that he acknowledges, he started this to sort of fight the narrative from Jerry Jones that he didn't do a good enough job with his rehab because he wasn't around the team last year. I don't know. I think there's truth on both sides. I think Diggs and the Cowboys, both should be heard when it comes to this topic. But simply, this is just one of the most gut-wrenching stories we've had on this team over the last decade, because he is so good at what he does. Maybe he's not a complete corner, but he is an incredible playmaker. And when he was on, the Cowboys championship window was legitimately open. And when he stopped being healthy, things got really depressing around this football team in a hurry.
It's hard to watch his brother do some of the things he's done in the offseason and put himself and put the family name in the spotlight the way that he has, and not want to read into things that get leaked. See, this is different than the Jaydon Blue stuff because there's so much connective tissue. And then you're also talking about the 23andMe side of it, where you go, oh, well, I could believe that because Stefan is just like that, and maybe 10,000 million times worse, and maybe they're completely different kids. My brother's tall and skinny, and I'm short and fat. The joke was that he was the milkman's kid and I was the mailman's kid, right? So like, they could be completely different, but there's, you read the tea leaves and you go, maybe that's just how the Diggs boys are. It's challenging now, though, in a different way. The same way we were talking about generational trauma and generational mindset from Saturday to Sunday. The players don't have to wait. The players don't have to even mess in terms of clapping back. They go get a quick little production crew. They go make their own little documentary. They show the whole world the truth. And I just hope this doesn't become something that puts him at odds with Jones fam. I hope this is more along the Kobe Bryant's muse line, where he's doing it to show everybody how hard he worked to prove himself on the way back, and that he is ultimately back, and that's all that matters.
No, I'll drink to that, because you're exactly right. I think the best result of this story would be he comes back somewhere around mid-season or Thanksgiving at the latest, plays great, and the winning sort of cures everything, and he and the Cowboys get back on the same page, because he's got like a team-friendly contract that you could move on from at the end of the season. But at $19 million a year, with like Sauce Gardner and these guys now hitting for 30, he's at 2/3 of the top.
And he might be just as good as them when healthy. I mean, he's that good.
Yeah. And I can't wait for this episode actually on YouTube, because, he says the two injuries are unrelated. He had the ACL and then the microfracture. One's like a in the moment catastrophic knee blowout. The other one is wear and tear that requires sort of a cartilage type of deal. And I'd like to learn more about it. I do think, though, that's very difficult to come back from. And maybe he will eventually. But like the first year back after tearing your ACL and then needing microfracture, I don't know. I would say it's going to require more like 18 to 24 months post-surgery to actually get back to what he was. So, I mean, the unfortunate reality, maybe this is like a Terrence Newman type of deal, where you think a guy's getting close to the end, you move on from him, bite the bullet, and then he goes off and plays 4 good years somewhere else.
Chondral graft is the new modern day microfracture, right? Yeah. And when you talk about, I wonder, all the talk here about Jalen Ramsey and how much safety he's going to play, or how much Nick Blitz, big nickel he's going to play. I wonder if he can't be the man on the island. Is there another way that his career evolves? Because if he can come back and he can still run and be the type of playmaker he is, if he can't turn and run 60, 70 times a game for 18 weeks, is there a way where you can translate what he does have and still be a key effective player?
I think so, because he, is kind of a wait for it guy, wait for it and break and go get it. He's not like a sticky. Is that in phase or out of phase? I'm not sure which one of those that is. But I think he kind of makes sense as a free safety. You know, if he doesn't have the explosive quickness and strength in his legs to put his foot in the ground and fire to that ball on the outside, could he give you that look at safety where you're kind of more on the move and just adjusting where you're running towards?
Yeah.
But I mean, his hands are so good, his size is so good, his length is so good that I believe at least before he hits 29, 30 or so, what you were just saying will apply.
Rod Woodson, Charles Woodson, Jalen Ramsey, these guys that have interchangeable elements. So many teams, they'll play 3 safeties. I mean, geez, look at what the Ravens have Kyle Hamilton. Oh, give us Malachi Starks. We'll figure it out, right? And so the more that these sub packages come into play, because like you talk about with the cycle, the Tampa 2 cycle, we're going to go into a place where teams start to figure that out and have answers for it, and defenses have to change to catch up to how the offenses adjust. And right now, that the trend is looking like more 3 safety looks, big nickel stuff, and that's coming from Saturday, right? That's coming from just like these quarterbacks like Lamar and other guys who maybe wouldn't have been able to play as quickly or wouldn't have been able to play as well because teams weren't adapting and adopting their college stuff to the pro. Everybody's doing that now because these kids just learn so much differently and they make changes for them, as opposed to, John Gruden trips right, ice cream, airplane, 792, X flat, Y banana. Like that's a play call in West Coast offense. Like how much of that is Andy Reid still doing for Mahomes, and how much of that is literally one word, one number, like Gus Malzahn was famous for with Cam Newton at Auburn?
All right, it is How About Wow here for you. Hit the like button if you're still with us, enjoying the content. Salute to you. Subscribe up next. Okay. Encouraging update from DeMarvion Overshown. Good news from the doc. We're getting active this season, he says, and he's got the Instagram picture.
So awesome.
Glory to God, and my guys in the training room showing love to the guys in the training room. I don't think this is much other than building social media until I see it. Like he's been saying kind of the same things, like ahead of schedule, like what he's trying to come back from the total ACL. It's huge. Oh, what are you saying? It's mental. He tried to psych himself into believing that 100% no limitations.
The first time I had knee surgery and had to go do the hula hoop, where you see the linemen chasing each other, and it's basically like recess for large mammals, right? And the first time I did that, and I felt my bones touch like post-op, and I was told that I was good, and I ain't good. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
When you go through these processes, and you're told this, and then it's like because there's a timeline, and everyone's a little bit different, and you go through these things, and it's more of a how much pain not how much pain can you handle, but it's like how much pain should I be handling? I'm supposed to be good. Swelling, pain, and the acuteness of every step of this process. I mean, if you talk about Achilles and ACL, you celebrate every step of the way back.
You do. And, I think Dak has shown there is value to being positive because you got to psychologically trick yourself into trusting your body. And
there's science behind it.
Absolutely there is. Okay, up next on How About Wow. Yeah, buddy, we got a Micah Parsons.
Oh, this is awesome.
He's on with the flipping Undertaker. Yeah, I love it when pro wrestlers are Cowboys fans because they want to come on the show. Like I got to interview Stone Cold Steve Austin about 10 years ago at Texas Motor Speedway. It's one of the absolute highlights of my life. But Micah Parsons updating his contract situation here. Here he is with the Undertaker. Why am I not hearing this? I got to turn the volume up. Hopefully, yes.
I can't not laugh when I see those hats. They're so stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, they bring him around the Super Bowl, and everybody, the first time they see him, they put him on. They're like, hey, look at me. And then after that, you're like, nah, I'm not going to be that guy again. But Micah had his first try. Here we go.
How are we coming along with the contract, man? Can you talk about it? Because, look, I
listen.
He had to get a drink of water.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign.
We obviously want to get done early. We want that relief off our backs, but obviously ownership is always going to make it drag out, make it more complicated than it has to be. Lack of communication in that standpoint. But, I just always say, God has me this far. He ain't done with me yet. So, I just keep working, keep going. And then when it comes, I'm going to be ready. But, it ain't going to be no drop off.
It seems like to me, like they would want to get it done because there's a few other contracts out there that are going to probably say what you're going to end up getting paid.
I would never understand it. We wanted to do the contract last year. They're just kind of like, we want to do Dak and CD, and then you go out there, perform again, and then, you know, you would think like, all right, we'll get it done early. We know there's some guys that's about to get ready to get repaid, like Miles, you know, Max is gone. So you would think like, hey, let's get ahead of that. You know what I mean? I just never understand, you know, when guys come into the league and they're consistent and they, you know, they perform well, why they got such an urge. But then there's guys that just have one good year or maybe 2 good years, and it's just like they get it right away. And now, even now, you got TJ and Max and all these other guys that's getting paid, and you can't want us to take less because you just want to decided to wait, you know?
You know what? I don't have any doubt. You're going to get what you deserve to get, and I can't wait to.
Yeah, Undertaker there, huge Cowboys fan. You know, I think the Cowboys just want to drag things out to see how good of a deal they can get the summer TV news cycle talking about them during a dead time of the sports year. There's a lot of business, you know, benefits. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys were thinking, we'll just tag you. But, you know, at some point in all these New Bear, I lose interest and I just say, wake me up when it's over. And I'm sure, you know, I can predict the contract within a few $1 million. So at some point, I really don't care. But it is always somewhat interesting because hanging off in there is the possibility the player could actually hold out like Aaron Donald did in 2017. You know,
Right.
There's always the possibility like Emmitt Smith's the last time a Cowboy really held out, but damn it, he held out for a long time. And I think it scared the Cowboys into, we don't want that to ever happen again, even though it was 30 years ago. You know, so could they cause a holdout by tagging him? Could they actually consider trading him? I don't think so, but it makes it just intriguing enough that I have to keep up on every detail of it.
So I've been thinking a lot about his age because there's a couple of things way beyond engagement farming that really matter here, because TJ did just get paid. And if you really get into it and the specificity of it, the talk here was that he wanted more guaranteed money. It wasn't that he wanted $1 more than Miles. It was that he wanted more guaranteed money as well. And he wanted it fully guaranteed, the 4 years, what have you, right? Only 3 years of TJ's deal is fully guaranteed. They can get out in year 4, and only $108 million is fully guaranteed. Miles got 123. So there's actually, like, he won the AAV, but Miles got more guaranteed. And when you look at the 3 years from now versus 4 or 5, you've talked about the Cowboys want to go longer. Everyone wants to go longer. I mean, what the Chiefs did with Mahomes is, if you could get Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or anybody to do that, you do it. And even if it looks crazy up front because it's $500 million, 10 years from now, it's pennies on the dollar relative to what other people are doing. And what I'm thinking Micah is actually doing, what the Cowboys are trying to beat him to, is to get that 4th year or even a 5th year, even if it costs them more. But Micah's looking at it going, I'm 26, 27, 20. If he does a 4-year deal, he's having the same conversation that TJ Watt was hearing, despite his Defensive Player of the Year awards, despite his All-Pros, his Pro Bowls, and all the success, because he was 31.
Yeah.
Mike's trying to get paid 2 more times.
Yeah, so there's advantages on both sides. You know, I think the only reason I think it's still, you know, really confusing, even after acknowledging all those things, is that the Cowboys are the only team that has not signed a star player from his draft class. So the unique way that they go about it is always adding interesting layers to the conversation. All right, up next here on How About Wow?
Love this song.
Yeah, let's do this. We go to Joseph Hoyt in the Morning News. How would missing Cowboys training camp affect Micah Parsons' elite players offer inside? Obviously, we've had CD and Zach and some holdouts over the years to reflect on. But he does go and look at the last 17 holdouts and evaluated based on PFF scores. 12 of the 17 had worse seasons than the previous year. 4 had better seasons. 1 was about the same. 2 recent ones, Aaron Donald and TJ Watt, were actually Defensive Player of the Year seasons immediately following the holdout, even after Aaron Donald missed the first game there. He gave a quote from Wade Phillips here, who said, you know, the great ones, they hate to lose, and they make a habit out of doing more than anybody else to make sure they win. You know, and Hoyt talked about Micah's high school coach, who says his biggest motivator is that he doesn't like to lose. He's going to do everything he can not to lose, not to be second. You tell him you can't do something, and he's going to literally try to kill himself to do it. So I think the topic there is there something intrinsically in the greats that they care more, they're doing more, and maybe we can't see it, or he's not doing it in a team context. But whether it's Tom Brady throwing to Peter King at his ranch in Montana, or Peyton Manning with a helmet on in the cold tub so we can at least listen to what the backup is trying to do on the practice field, like these guys that end up being here, you might not always be able to see it, but you can count on if they get to the top of the mountain, they're probably working harder and care more than anybody else.
I'm not worried about Micah Parsons, not 1 second. And I'm the only thing I'm worried about is it's the same narrative that was going on in Pittsburgh with TJ Watt. Is the last time he had a contract issue, yes, he goes out and he wins Defensive Player of the Year. I fully expect Micah Parsons to be in the running for it. It's about everybody else. It's about all these other guys who have to slay. We were just celebrating Easy signing his contract. We're so excited to see what he looks like and what he's going to do. How different is that picture when Micah's in it?
I think significantly better, but specifically to what happens around this contract year and then trying to getting paid New Bear. I would love for you to just talk about the psychology of that contract year and then the psychology of you getting paid. Do you feel a stronger obligation to make your employer right? That, hey, they didn't do a bad contract with me. I'm going to make them feel like, wow, we're still getting a bargain, even though he reset the market. And, I think a guy like TJ Watt proved that when I get paid, I get more motivated to prove you right. I don't get comfortable like a Jay Cutler or an Albert Hainsworth. I don't feel like job done. Now it's time to get ready for retirement while 9 figures strolls into my savings account. And I just wonder if Micah Parsons is that guy.
I love Jay Cutler, and I'm a huge fan. And he cost me a girl in a game in the same day in Nashville. So don't even. I have every reason to hate that dude, but I was a huge fan of his and hated how they didn't have a defense. They finally got a quarterback, but the defense got old in Chicago. And that's my hometown team. And I was so excited when we got him because I played against him. I knew exactly what that dude was made out of. He was different. And before, the reason I'm still talking about him isn't just because I wanted to love him, have his jersey, and have him take the Bears to the Super Bowl. It's because he just is who he is. And you love it or you hate it, or there's really not a whole lot in between with him, right? There's this great story where he was like in Wrigleyville taking a leak and a fan comes up behind him and is just glazing him and obsessed with him. And he just, I don't care, right? Smoking Jay Cutler. Everyone just thought he didn't care. And he like, you just made the joke, right? Micah's the opposite way, right? I think TJ Watt the opposite way. They might care too much. If anything, they're going to try too hard. And when you think about the ripple effects and how that stuff wears off on people, that has as much to do with it as the alignment, as the stunts, as the athletic talent that goes into him making plays. I'm talking about what it does for Jack Sanborn, what it does for Kenneth Murray, what it does for Mozzie Smith, and all these other dudes that we got question marks about. If they're singled up, if you can't double Mozzie Smith because Micah Parsons is stunting in the A-gap next to him, or because he's showing blitz and he might drop, and you have to think about it and guess, and at best you are guessing pre-snap, it's a different deal for everyone else. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about wins and losses.
Yeah, and that's what's so exciting to what we were just talking about with Ezeiruaku. If you get it one player the defense has to really game plan for, and you can find a second and third player who just gives you 75% of that nastiness, it becomes too much for the offense to handle unless they do something like max protect.
But it's the same thing with CD and G. You can't double everyone.
Yeah.
You flip it the other way. And that was the thing that made those. That's why Tom Brady got beat twice by Eli Manning. Is because when you got guys like Tuck and Strahan and Umenyiora and they're all together wreaking havoc, that's why this year's Giants team, as ugly as it might be at times on offense, is terrifying to think about. It's not just propaganda. Those dudes up front are already wreaking havoc. OTAs become training camp, become the regular season. And if you get in a few rock fights where you leave that thing around, whoever's under center can make a play, right? These guys are all getting paid too. And the thing that's so different about Micah Parsons relative to this team is he can slide into so many different roles, right? We're not talking about easy where we know he's going to line up at end and maybe you kick him down inside in a sub package, and you're trying to do some different movement stuff with him, but he's not all of a sudden going to be lining up at middle linebacker. Micah Parsons might in a sub package, right? It's the same thing they're talking about with TJ Watt. Now that he did get more money, does he start moving around again? That's something that Micah already does. And when you talk about what the Cleveland Browns do with Myles Garrett, it's not just that Myles Garrett goes and produces wherever you put him. It's what he allows other people. Their production goes up because now they're one-on-one. And when you're one-on-one on Sunday, you got to win.
You just got to make them think a little bit, before the snap, at the snap, and that making an athlete think instead of react is insane. So we're getting ready to play football, and here we go. We're breaking the huddle. Where's Micah Parsons? If he's in a completely different spot, you have to change coverage. You have to get everybody on the same page. And if you're already short on the clock because you're a team that manages it like that, now you're in a hurry. And I think those are the advantages that the smart coaches trust their players to execute.
Do you remember what the Tennessee Titans were doing with Myles Garrett? They had two guys, and he'd line up on the left. They'd motion the two guys, and then he'd flip. The defense can move, right? So they're jumping in and out. My favorite was always Urlacher and Briggs with the Bears showing the double A gap stuff, and you didn't know if they were coming or dropping, or one was coming and one was dropping, and they're just ducking in and out, and everybody does that now, right? Even if you're a straight Tampa 2 team, you show all kinds of other stuff, and then you just roll to Tampa 2. But like when you show that stuff, it doesn't matter if it's Jason Kelce, Travis Frederick, or some dude you just signed off the street at center. He's got to change the protection because of it. And that stuff, now all of a sudden, you might not be one-on-one. You might be running free. And that's you're talking about making mistakes, and you're talking about doing that in real time, and even more than just a 4-2-5 guy like we talk about with Jaydon Blue. If you're a twitchy lineman running like a 4-9 right tackle or something, now all of a sudden you got to think, and you're out of your stance a heartbeat. Like you're done.
Absolutely, 100%. Up next year on How About Wow. We go to Blogging the Boys, buddy, and they have positional grades for the Cowboys prior to training camp. I just want to go through each of these position groups with you, if you don't mind, and we will say agree, disagree, maybe give a different grade. Quarterback at a B+ with Dak and Joe Milton. Obviously, some Will Grier in there. I would say I hope it's a B+. Is that too harsh? I want this to be a great year for Dak, but 2 out of the last 3 have been a little concerning.
Yeah, the health thing has got to be what's holding this back, because you're excited about Milton's potential. You think, or I don't think you're hoping anymore. You see the evidence; he looks great. I know he's still got to be 100% medically cleared, but like you're not hoping anymore. You're thinking that Dak is going to come back. B+ makes sense here.
Yeah, his health is fine. I think it's the health of the running game and how good is the left tackle. Because we'll talk about Jaylen Hurts a little bit later on. Can you run them into man? And if you can run them into man, then Dak Prescott could win the MVP. But I don't know if they can run or protect well enough to put Dak in those situations.
So hold on for a second. Are these grades, did they preface this as contextual? Because I missed that. I thought we were just judging the room unto itself. We're judging the room unto itself, right? Because this is a B+ for the quarterback room that could turn into an A if Dak's healthy and he plays, and like you just said, if you can run them into one.
Well, I don't know. I think when people are doing grades and they don't clarify, exactly how they're looking at these. But I think when you're looking at grades, it's all reliant on how they play around you. And if Dak Prescott goes out there and is Dak, but the surroundings are so bad that it's a near 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio with top 5 in the NFL in turnover worthy plays,
sure.
In my opinion, Dak is about a B, right? But he will have the stat sheet of a D. You know what I'm saying? So
I just want to make sure that we're not conflating like the total team, like the Bengals, where Burrow's having an MVP season and that's an A+ quarterback room, even if they don't have a backup. You know what I mean? Like,
right? Yeah, no, but I would say the Bengals are an A+. Until you get hurt, we're not planning on going to the backup. You're like, who is it? Bill Polian with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning gets hurt, we're bleeped, and we don't practice bleeped.
We're just punting on third down.
But yeah, it's a big year for Dak. And I don't think he's good enough by himself to overcome bad left tackle and bad running game. And if that offends you, then I understand. But I think a lot of people agree with me.
It's probably a solid B, meaning like 85, 86. So B plus is maybe them giving him a little bit of love. This could turn into an A based on everything you're saying.
Okay, the running back room's a C. I think that's generous.
Oh, you think it's like a D or worse? Would you give it a failing grade?
Yeah, I mean, unless Imhoff or Blue are outstanding, this running back room right now grades and projects. I think PFF put it at 31, so it's like an F plus.
The hardest part about it is the unknown stuff here. I mean, if we're going to talk about Dak and his injury and what it may or may not mean, if we go Dak might be Jesus, this running back room is it's all might.
Yeah, wide receiver A, no doubt about it. I hope they find a third guy to blow up to make it even more. That's the only reason.
I mean, this is on the verge of an A plus plus. Like if Turpin can maybe leave his toys at home and drive the speed limit, and he becomes a guy that they have some fun with because he's fast in cleats, this is an A plus plus.
Yeah, and I think a lot of different guys on this team can give you that third look, and I think we should include, Ferguson with the tight ends for sure, but he's athletic enough that he's going to take pressure off those other two guys with the gravity from the middle, but also Tolbert, who had 49 catches and 7 touchdowns last year. So maybe you're trying to piece it together, but I really like the wide receiver room, obviously. The offensive line B.
Wait, don't skip the tight ends. I know you talked about Fergie. Are you good with a B plus?
Oh, my bad. I did. No, generous. I think Blogging the Boys going homer a little bit here.
Yes, I mean this is a big year for Scooney, right? I mean, if they're going to run as much 12, and I think you even think some of the third, not that they're going to live in 13, but I mean it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this room if Fergie's healthy and he's able to get back to being what he's capable of as a Pro Bowl level plus tight end, and then what they get out of 12 personnel if they're able to kind of dictate some of those matchups from the defense perspective in terms of what they're getting from the running back room that you think is an F plus.
I like Scooney. I like Spanford, the undrafted guy from a couple of years ago, and they're talking about maybe Spanford makes Scooney expendable. I would keep Scooney because I think he's a great athlete and he's versatile. I also want your thoughts on including Jonathan Mingo in that tight end room because I think he gives you enough physicality that maybe we can't.
So I texted you a couple weeks ago. He's the same size as Shannon Sharp. Like, just give the guy a couple of protein shakes and let him just go try something different. And honestly, that might be what it takes for this dude to be a 10-year plus NFL guy if he's having that many problems outside.
Okay, defensive end A-, spot on, even though they lost DeMarcus Lawrence. This group's outstanding, and bringing in Fowler is a great move. I don't know what Peyton Turner's going to give him, but you have Nealon for strength. You have Sam Williams for freak athlete. You have Ezeiruaku, a rookie who we just talked about. It helps both sides. I don't know if there's a better set of edge players in the entire league.
Yeah, and the one thing here is so they broke it out. I thought it was just defensive line there for a minute because the defensive tackle group is not graded well.
No, did I skip over that C-? I would say that's low.
It's Mozzie dragging him down. There's so much hate for that guy, and I just hope in this Eberflus system where people are worried that it's not going to be designed to his skill set and penetrating and getting upfield and this, that, and the other. He's a nose. At a certain point, the dude over the center is either disruptive or he's not, and that doesn't have to be getting sacks and counting stats. I mean, Vince Wilfork is going to go to the Hall of Fame because 2 or 3 dudes had to get in his way on every play.
Yeah, and I think Osa's good enough that by himself he is disruptive enough that the group should be at worst a C+, maybe a B-. Mozzie and Jay Toya at defensive tackle. I think they need to bring in a veteran at some point on Oxnard. But I mean, how often do you use a one technique? 35% of the time. I can get Solomon Thomas on the field.
Solomon Thomas is a professional football player, and Osa is so disruptive. It's the minus for me. Like, you could talk me into a C just because it's literally right in the middle, and there's really good and there's really bad.
Let's go to linebacker here, New Bear. B, generous.
TBD.
C-.
TBD.
Yeah. I mean, I hope the scheme change and change of scenery can make Sanborn and Kenneth Murray better players than they were at their last stops.
this is also something that you're looking at. When does Overshown really come back, and what is he really still made of? And also, I think this is one of the fascinating things about edge. I hate the edge play. Is Micah a defensive end or is he an outside linebacker? It's a fascinating conversation, particularly with the scheme, where he lines up, what he gets credit for. Because if Micah's getting counting stats, counting reps, then he should also count toward their grade being better at the end of the year.
I think I've kind of settled into calling anybody that plays on the edge an edge, and then clarifying further if you're a run stopping edge who plays with your hand in the dirt, that's a defensive end. But it's just lame how this thing has evolved, because I think it's crappy when somebody says linebacker and you're not sure what the hell they mean. Like, how did we get there?
It's the hybridization of not just schemes, but of players, of human beings, and how many more elite guys of a certain size, right? To your point, it used to be you were a 4-3 team or a 3-4 team, and now teams are so multiple that even the 3-4 teams have, they got nickel packages, and that means 4 guys down, right? So I don't know. It's a fascinating thing to just think about. Like, I remember playing video games back in the day, and it was like, did you want to play? A team would be dictated because it was like, are you telling me Howie Long is going to be in a 2-point stance, and I got to go try to go hunt people because he's listed as not what he is and functionally how he plays? It makes me crazy.
It does. It absolutely does, especially in a sport that's so good at having parlance and words and a glossary of terms. Like, we should have perfected this by now. Let's go to where was it? Let's go to cornerback B-.
Ooh. Yeah. You're expecting some good reports from the training room there.
I guess you're expecting Siobhan Ravel to be really good. You're expecting Ty Allen to kick the bust label that's on him. I would say D+ at best right now. Need Gilmore and Hilton to arrive to be a B-.
I want Gilly Lock to just show up in a limo in Oxnard so bad.
That would be amazing. Safety B-. Generous. This is a C at best.
You know what I do like about this though is these guys are knockout punchers, and they're I can't even talk. I'm so excited to think about Wilson and Hooker just lighting dudes up that I don't mind every once in a while if you get caught flat-footed, if you get caught peeking, if you will come up and absolutely steal someone's soul.
All right, up next here on How About Wow. All right, Dez Bryant defending an Eagle, New Bear. I love how Dez interacts and engages on Twitter. I guess I'd rather have him not defending Eagles, but that's part of it, right? He's going to give you his honest opinion without bias on a variety of subjects. But Cam Newton left Jalen Hurts off of his top 10. Dez Bryant says he's in there for a variety of reasons, and that AJ and Devontae get one-on-one coverage a lot due to Jalen Hurts' dual threat ability. He says Saquon Barkley became the best running back in the league because of that dual threat ability. And the number one skill for a quarterback is their mind to operate what's asked of them, and he's doing it at a high level. I pretty much agree with all of this. I don't think I would add Jalen Hurts out of the draft, all things being equal, and be like, hey, this is great. But for that team, it's perfect. I'm gonna make your running game even better. I can beat man coverage. I can give us all the 3rd and 1s and 4th and 2s for first downs and touchdowns that you ever want. Like, I think you can make the case that he's the 5th most impactful player, but I don't think he'd have a chance in hell of winning a Super Bowl if he didn't have as good of a roster as the Eagles. I think a lot of quarterbacks could have won with a different approach. But, I think for a long time growing up, people wanted to discount the quarterback that had to run. Like, oh, that's not a real quarterback.
Yeah.
But in today's game, it's more real than ever as defenses have tried to eliminate the big passing play.
Well, and all Jalen Hurts does is win. You can not like him. You can talk about who deserves the credit and all the guys around him, and it's a fantasy football offense. And at the end of the day, there's guys who have that stuff and lose. I mean, Peyton Manning had the greatest offense of all time, and they got run out of a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes has been way worse more often than not than he's been even decent in the Super Bowl, right? So, like, just because you have the toys doesn't mean you know how to drive them and use them and play with them the right way. And that's the thing about Dez's point that I love the most. It made me wonder if he's got, like Trump does, like a little, whether it's a secretary, an admin, a social media, whatever the case may be, following him around, tweeting for him, because it was like so punctually perfect and succinct, and there was like a little bit of staccato and prose, and I wonder if he's just like walking around dictating and like someone's typing it for him, and he says this awesome thing, and then the other person, you've seen those behind the scenes videos. It always cracks me up because Dez has something to say about everything. And the one thing I want to give him credit for, and shout out just real quick, is that we bitch and moan and complain that these guys don't say anything and they don't give us sound bites, and it's on to Cincinnati, and it's, under the umbrella of noise and the team keeping it in the locker room. Dez has never been that guy, and I'm so happy that it's only accelerated in retirement. And
yeah, it's not his problem that you can't handle maybe the truth of what he's saying,
right. And some of this stuff, even if you don't agree with it, it's still interesting, right? And it's still his truth.
Yes.
And there's been plenty of stuff that he said where I'm like, damn, dude, what did you have for breakfast today? But it's fascinating, it's entertaining, it's interesting. But to bring it back around on Jalen Hurts, PFF's got him at 5. And I think you are of the mind that anyone pretty much 5 through 15 or so, all the way to Dak, you can mix and match, and that Dak belongs a little bit higher up. But what's really interesting about Hurts is, okay, so then go to Jaden Daniels. Is Jaden Daniels a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts? Has he won a Super Bowl? No, but he went to the AFC Championship game as a rookie on a team that was terrible before he showed up in town, and he did it without a ton of weapons and great line play and, a lot of mitigating circumstances. We're also all basically waiting to see if he can avoid the CJ Stroud sophomore slump. And talk about toys, right? I mean, they gave CJ Stroud just about everything he wanted, and they couldn't figure it out last year. Obviously, injuries and inconsistency, and it just because you got new guys and you paid them doesn't mean it's going to work, Chicago. You still got to do it on the field. But then you go down this list and you go past Jaden Daniels, who's probably the most similar in style just because of the running. Stafford doesn't beat you with his legs, got a way better arm. He's also got a Super Bowl. Justin Herbert threw more picks in one playoff game than he did all season last season. Jared Goff is a guy who was ditched for another guy coming off of a Super Bowl who couldn't get it done with all the weapons they had, a lot, basically like Burrow on steroids. I mean, you go tit for tat with every other quarterback on this list, and there is easily a way to argue it Hurts into being a better QB than that person.
Yeah, and I don't think he'd win with a lot of those teams. But man, you can't deny the results of what he's been able to put together and how important an element of the run game is, however you can get it, but I do think it's very relevant that, perhaps we're talking about Jalen Hurts being number 5, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson also being in the top 5. And, where is Dak? I felt for like a lot of his career better than Jalen Hurts. But now he really can't give that element without getting hurt probably within a half. Like if he tried to play like Lamar Jackson, I don't think Dak Prescott makes it through that game anymore. And in college, he was like a crash dummy that, that could sacrifice his body in order to get first downs. Like you compared him to John Elway the other night. I see those similar traits. He's tough. And he does a lot of other stuff great. But when you take away the ability to run, damn it, you better be Joe Burrow, Joe Montana. There's
better athletes than they get credit for.
Sure. There's not a lot of room for a guy who's average with his true accuracy to dominate today's game without being able to run.
I mean, it's hard to talk about 2 more accurate quarterbacks than Burrow and Montana. You watch some of those NFL films, even if it's grainy on a VHS tape in your grandma's basement, it's still pretty as anything to watch Joe Montana do the damn thing. And, Burrow is surgical. You talk about where he put the ball on the back shoulder on purpose to Jamar Chase based on how he felt his body language, based on how they'd been practicing the out route that beat Dallas last year, when Chase was able to use the momentum and the leverage against the corner and cut inside and take it to the house, right? So it's a fascinating thing to think about with Dak. I will add this, though. Go back to Mississippi State. He was running the Tebow offense, right? Mullen was Tebow's OC at Florida. And if you put side-by-side tape up of Dak at Mississippi State and Tebow at Florida, and you change uniform numbers, it'd be hard to tell a difference outside of the fact that one's right-handed and one's left-handed. Dak didn't have 10 first-round draft picks running around with him like Tebow did at Florida. Tebow left Florida as the all-time leading passer in SEC history. Thought that's why he went in the first round. It's the same kind of difference between what Jalen Hurts has had his entire career in Philly versus what Dak's had in Dallas. I mean, you could argue there was a time where the lines were as good, but when you talk about A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, when you talk about Saquon Barkley, like Dak's never had it all at the same time.
No. And Hurts gets all of that plus the best defense in the NFL. You know, it's Dak would have won the Super Bowl with him, that team last year, no doubt about it, and probably wouldn't have had to start 2-2 and lean so heavily on the run game to get there. You know, I think Dak's significantly more talented, but right now Jalen Hurts significantly more effective, and we'll see if the Cowboys can put Dak in a position to, you know, be again considered better than the Eagles quarterback. We're going to be in Oxnard next week, buddy. Absolutely cannot wait. And you can get our socials, you can read our written words, and get our latest videos at howboutwow.com. You can follow us on social, Instagram, TikTok, How About Wow Cowboys. What else can you add to tease what's to come here over the next 5 weeks in our lead up to Cowboys Eagles?
I just can't wait to see you and give you a noogie and just kind of pick on you for a couple of days in person, because it's just way more fun. But what I'm really looking forward to is bringing our guy Wayman more into the mix. And we're going to work on producing some more midweek mic drops and getting into some hyper real stuff for opening kick.
That sounds great, man. Sorry if that audio jumped in there. Apologies for that. I just wanted to get this ready to tell you that How About Wow is brought to you by our friends at Harbor Lights. Go to harborenterprisesllc.com, and you can get their Christmas and July special, whether it's seasonal lights or whether it is permanent lighting on your home or your business. harborenterprisesllc.com is the website for you, and thank you to Harbor Lights for your continued support of How About Wow. And it's brought to you by Bet Online. The link is in the description. The QR code is in the upper right-hand corner right now, up to $250 in free bets for new customers. 50% of your initial deposit matched in free bet credit with no restrictions applying there for How About Wow viewers. Until next time, for New Bear, I'm Dawson. How About Wow?